Am I stupid for wanting to forgive and move on with our lives after my wife announced at her sister's wedding that she slept with the best man? My wife informed me at her sister's wedding that she had slept with the best man. The timing is crucial here. We have been married for 3 years and were together as a couple for 2 years before that, making it a total of about 5 years. 2 weekends ago, her sister got married, and naturally, my wife was part of the wedding party. As expected, she spent the 2 weeks before the wedding helping her sister with all the preparations. It was no big deal. She kept me updated, and I knew this was going to happen. She took that Wednesday to Friday off, worked to assist her sister, and stayed with her for 3 days. I certainly know her sister, but I barely know the guy, who is now my brother-in-law. In fact, I have only met him a few times, but he seems nice enough. I showed up Saturday morning a few hours before the ceremony, hoping to steal a few minutes to see her, not wanting to intrude on the day since I knew she was busy, but I hadn't seen her since Tuesday. She saw me outside her parents' house and sent her brother out to tell me that she would come out and see me in the car, which I thought was odd, but whatever. She finally came out, sat in the seat next to me, and gave me a kiss. Instead of acting happy to see me, she told me that she had to talk to me and didn't want to ruin her sister's day. She informed me that, at the reception, if I still wanted to go, I might hear some things about her and the best man, and she didn't want it to be awkward or weird. I just kind of sat there stunned. She explained that about 4 years ago she had a fling with him, and while it didn't mean anything, she knew that I'm somewhat jealous by nature and wanted me to know in advance so that if I heard something, I wouldn't be surprised. Again, I just kind of sat there. This was not how I thought my morning would go, but I told her I appreciated knowing it, and that it certainly wasn't a big deal now. She went back into the house and I went to eat lunch and decided to meet her at the church. As I was eating in my phone, a realization hit me. She mentioned having a fling with him 4 years ago, yet we have been together for 5 years. Initially, I wanted to dismiss it, thinking she might have just made a mistake with the timeline, but the more I thought about it, the more memories started coming back to me. About 1.5 years into our relationship, she went through a phase where her behavior was quite suspicious. She wasn't available when she usually would be and went on 2 weekend camping trips with friends from work. Naturally, this made me feel uneasy, but I knew I had a long day ahead and tried to push those thoughts aside. I arrived at the wedding and watched everything unfold. After the ceremony, there was a line where guests walked by to congratulate the bride and groom, with the wedding party standing in line as well. My wife was standing next to a guy I didn't know, but the best man was also there. I walked down the line, acting like everything was fine. At the reception, it took a long time for the wedding party to arrive due to the photo session. When my wife finally got there and sat with me, I chose not to mention anything, not wanting to create a distraction on such an important day. However, instead of leaving it be, she informed me that each groomsman and bridesmaid would be dancing together, and she would be dancing with the best man. I asked why, given that she wasn't paired with him in the wedding party. She explained that the maid of honor and her partner were married and wanted to dance together. At this point, I was more than just a little irritated, but I tried to keep my feelings in check. I knew better than to drink, as I tend to get angry when intoxicated. She chatted with everyone around her, and then the time for the dance arrived. The best man came over, extended his arm, and she got up to dance with him. I made a conscious effort not to watch them and focused on other things instead. When she returned with him, they were laughing and joking like the best of friends. She decided to introduce us, and while I didn't tell him to get lost as I felt like doing, my greeting was probably less than friendly. However, this did not stop him from sitting down and talking with her for a few minutes. The more they chatted and reminisced about the past, the angrier I became. Eventually, I got up and went to the bathroom, and when I came back, he was gone. She chose that moment to tell me that she thought I was being rude, which was the last thing I wanted to hear. I told her that this wasn't the appropriate time or place for this discussion, but we would definitely talk later. She then said she was going to change clothes, and as soon as she returned, she was planning to tell her sister that we were leaving because I had ruined her day. However, she didn't want me to ruin her sister's day as well. I assured her that I was perfectly capable of not causing any trouble for her or her sister for the rest of the day, and that I did not want to create any drama, so I preferred to stay. She went to change clothes and came back looking annoyed. Understand, I had not said a word to her, and I even shook the other guy's hand. I guess I just looked miserable, which is what she based her reaction on. She was adamant about not staying, so I said that if she really wanted to leave, we could go, but if she preferred to stay, I would be happy to stay too, or if she liked, I could leave since I had my own car. Initially, she said we should stay, but then she changed her mind and said if I couldn't behave better, I should leave. I asked how I was acting, and she said it was clear I was trying to act like a silverback gorilla, ready for a fight. I didn't know whether to laugh at her or be offended. I went back inside and sat down while she mingled with the other guests. I talked with her brother for a while, but eventually ended up back at our table, talking with her grandma. We left at the same time, and I arrived home just before she did. I was sitting in the living room waiting for her when she came in, and she did not beat around the bush. I simply asked her to retell me the story about this other guy, and she repeated it, word for word, as before. After sitting and looking at her for a while, I asked if she was sure about the time frame, and she confirmed she was. I then reminded her that we had been together for 5 years, so this fling was well over a year into our relationship. What happened next is hard to describe. Instead of being flustered or denying it, she simply said she knew. So I asked her to explain, and she told me that they worked together and it was just a physical thing. She felt that we weren't in a great place at the time, and she never had any feelings for him or any real intention of leaving me. She was just having some fun for a few weekends. She admitted that it was probably a mistake on her part to tell me now, but she didn't want me to be blindsided. I did not react the way she anticipated. We had a huge argument, which ended when she accused me of being childish about the whole situation. She insisted that because we are now married, what happened before our marriage shouldn't affect our current life together. I vehemently disagree. First, her infidelity affects us profoundly, and she doesn't even show any remorse. Second, I despise being called childish. When I get upset, it feels like she's trying to assert superiority over me. I told her I needed time to process everything, but she dismissed it, claiming there was nothing to think about since we love each other and this doesn't change anything. That conversation happened 2 weeks ago and I'm still not over it. She has been trying to talk to me over the past few days, but I find myself unable to see her the same way. Part of me thinks it's irrational to be this upset over something that happened years ago, but another part of me is deeply hurt by the revelation of her infidelity. Update. At her sister's wedding, my wife told me she had slept with the best man. The maid of honor, not my wife, was married to the groomsman who walked my wife down the aisle. Some people speculated that my wife was trying to arrange the dance, but I know for certain that part was genuine. However, this doesn't mean she didn't offer to let them dance or engage in other manipulative behavior. I wanted to clarify that part. Recent developments have only made my decision-making process more difficult. Last week, I felt mostly angry, but as the weekend went on, I became more sad. I want to hate her and flip the switch that tells me I'm being taken advantage of, but it's tough because I still love her, and this situation is tearing me apart. Here's what happened next. She eventually realized that I wasn't going to simply get over this, which made her understand that I might want to leave the marriage. This realization almost caused her to have a nervous breakdown. Someone from my first post suggested she might try to manipulate me, and I took that warning to heart. Initially, I thought she was shedding crocodile tears, but it soon became clear that she wasn't faking. She was having a real panic attack. This led to an emergency room visit, an overnight hospital stay, new medications, and a follow-up appointment with her doctor next week. Her family got involved, leading to lengthy discussions all around. When we got home with her family, I asked what she wanted to do, given the full house. She said she wanted to be with her mom for a while, which was fine with me as I had no desire to spend the day with her dad or sister. So I decided to finish up some work and return home later. 2 hours after I arrived, I got a text from her, pleading for me to come home and saying she desperately needed to talk. So I wrapped up what I was doing and headed back. When I got to my front porch, her dad was there, asking if he could have a word with me. Already feeling quite angry, I was prepared to confront him if she had filled him with lies. While we weren't best friends, I had never had any issues with him, so I wasn't keen on being the one who broke his daughter's heart. We sat down on the deck chairs, and his opening statement completely caught me off guard. I expected anything but what he said next. He revealed that she had told them what had happened, and he wanted to apologize to me because he felt like he had failed as a parent. He believed that her mindset was largely influenced by her mother. Although he loved both of them, he admitted they were wrong. He had warned his wife years ago that teaching their daughters that anything before marriage didn't count was a terrible idea and a flawed value system. He clarified that he wasn't defending his daughter's actions but wanted me to understand that she genuinely believed marriage was an entirely separate chapter of life. He said her mom and dad had romanticized marriage so much that she struggled to grasp the realities of life. Essentially, he was placing some blame on his wife, but this was far from what I anticipated. We shook hands, and he told me that no matter what I decided, he still held me in high regard, which genuinely made me feel better for the moment. I then went inside, and my wife was curled up in a ball on her mom's lap. and you could tell she had been crying the entire time I had been gone. Her mom got up, came, hugged me, and told me she was sorry and that she loved me and was praying that we could work this out. My wife was laid out on the couch. At this point, her mom and dad left, and she sat there looking at me and crying. Okay, this is where I'm going to piss off everybody and just tell you that I couldn't take it. I went to her, and we hugged for a long time with her telling me over and over how sorry she was. Hey, I know it was the weak thing to do, but again, I have to say, in my defense, that just before this incident occurred, I loved her with all of my heart and would have done anything to not see her in pain. Whatever she had done, I still didn't want to see her like that. Look, it's very possible that she was putting on an Oscar-worthy acting job, but I don't honestly think so. She really seemed broken at that point in time. After a while, when she calmed down, I asked her what she wanted me to come home and talk about, and she said she wanted to get everything out in the open so I didn't feel like I was being lied to or manipulated. She wanted me to ask her questions, and I wish I had written down a list, but I came up with a few off the top of my head. She was brutally honest with me, and some of the questions I asked I probably shouldn't have, because now the mental image is stuck in there. But honestly, it was there anyway. I just now have confirmation. First, I asked for dates, or at the very least approximate dates. I didn't tell her about the engagement concern I had because I didn't want her to change stories, and she remembered exactly when they occurred. Fortunately, this happened a little earlier in our relationship than she told me initially, so we were not engaged when this happened. I can't tell you what a relief that was because I became physically ill when I thought about that when someone said it in my last post. Second, I asked how many times she went overboard with this because instead of just telling me how many different dates, she decided to tell me how many times there was intimacy. She wasn't doing it to be mean. She honestly thought that is what I wanted to know. This part of the conversation did not help me at all and, in fact, almost broke me down. In truth, it wasn't that often, and in fact, there were really only 3 different days that it happened on. But there were several times during those 3 days. Then came the difficult part, that was understanding why she did it. Admittedly, I'm not the most masculine man, and it pains me to say this, but I couldn't ask without breaking down into tears. I questioned why I wasn't enough, why she chose him, and why she didn't just leave me. At that moment, it was her turn to comfort me because everything hit me all at once. Her confession, witnessing their interactions, and now learning the details of their affair. She spoke during this, but I couldn't process her words. I was too upset, and honestly, nothing she could say would make a difference. After regaining my composure, I told her that the betrayal was terrible, but her reaction when I found out was just as bad, if not worse. She agreed and apologized for calling me immature. She genuinely believed that it wouldn't matter to me now, because we were married. Hearing this made my blood boil again. I was about to respond, but she interrupted, saying that after discussing with her parents, she realized how wrong she was and acknowledged that cheating is cheating. However, she still felt that the happiness we shared since getting married should mean something. I responded that I felt like that happiness was built on a lie. This led to another breakdown for her, nearly resulting in another visit. But between Ativan and breathing into a paper bag, we managed to calm her down. I let her sleep the Sunday we were talking again. By this point, I wasn't as understanding as I had been when we returned from the I told her that introducing him to me was terrible. Having to watch her dance with him was even worse, and the fact that she only confessed because she was about to get caught was the worst of all. I then asked why she thought I would find out and how many people at the wedding knew besides me. Clearly, the guy knew, but his best friend, who is now my brother-in-law, also knew. This led to her finding out, and she feared her sister would be the one to tell me. I asked how often she saw this guy and she said the wedding was the first time she had seen him in 3 years. I lost my temper and asked if she met him at any point leading up to the wedding. She got defensive, acting as though she wouldn't have slept with anyone because she was married. I was so frustrated that I had to leave for a while, feeling like she was living in a completely different reality. After cooling off enough to return home and attempt to be civil, she asked what she could do to help me get past this. Although it may not sound like much, it was the first time she genuinely offered to help, so it was a nice gesture. I told her I wasn't sure what she could do or if there was anything either of us could do to fix this, and that I might never get over it. She said she wanted to help because she didn't want to see me in pain and hoped that over time, I would judge her based on who she is now. She promised to do anything I needed to work this out. She also wanted to assure me that she had been entirely faithful since we got married. Her vows, I sarcastically thanked her, which I admit wasn't the most mature reaction. I then asked for a break from further discussions until at least Wednesday. I have 2 projects I need to complete, and honestly, I'm exhausted and unsure of what to do. I fluctuate between intense anger, where I want to kick her out, and deep emotional pain, where I want to forget everything and move forward with her. Yes, I know this is not what anyone wanted to hear, and no, I'm not proud to type it, but it is what it is at the moment. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking, real-life stories happening around you.